The 49ers are going to be without Brock Purdy for quite some time, and he's not the only one. I'm Rob Stats Guerrero from the Pro Football Insiders. The news came down early on Thursday that Brock Purdy could miss anywhere from 2 to 5 games with a turf toe variant. I'm not sure how many variants of turf toe there are, but obviously, this is horrible news for the 49ers, who were very, very dependent on the top of their roster because the depth simply isn't there. And remember, this was the most injured team in the league last season, already off to a terrible start, losing Brock Purdy and others, which we'll get to in a minute. And I know some people are quick to blame Kyle Shanahan, and surely as the head coach, he has to bear some responsibility for this. But I will point out that since 2014, the San Francisco 49ers have had exactly 3 seasons where their starting quarterback has been healthy enough to play every single game. One was Colin Kaepernick. One was Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019 when they made the Super Bowl. The other was Brock Purdy himself in 2023 when they made the Super Bowl. Other than that, backup quarterbacks have always been part of the story with the 49ers, including a half decade before Kyle Shanahan ever even got there. It is simply staggering that they have not been able to keep their starter healthy for this long. And Brock played well, even despite the injury in week 1 in Seattle. And now it's going to come down to Mac Jones against the New Orleans Saints and possibly beyond. Remember, 2 to 5 weeks was the timeline for Brock Purdy. Let's take a look at the schedule for the 49ers. Obviously, in New Orleans in week 2. Then they're home to play the Cardinals in week 3. Home to play the Jaguars. That could be a Mac Jones revenge game in week 4. And then they play the Rams on Thursday night. So you could be potentially in a situation where the 49ers do not have Brock Purdy or George Kittle, because remember, George Kittle is on injured reserve for 2 upcoming division games. That is massive for the 49ers. They won just 1 game in the division last year. They needed to be better against the NFC West in 2025, and now they're without their 2, I don't want to say most important because Christian McCaffrey is still a thing, but clearly 2 incredibly important offensive pieces against those teams this year. So the mission for the Niners now becomes, can you stay afloat, right? Can Mac Jones keep you afloat through this stretch where hopefully you can get some reinforcements? Certainly, if you had to pick a team on the Niners schedule that you would want to play without Brock Purdy and George Kittle, it would be New Orleans. No disrespect to them, but let's be honest, they have one of the least impressive rosters in the league. Their quarterback situation is kind of a mess. In fact, Spencer Rattler has never won a single start as a quarterback in the National Football League. Now, they played well against Arizona in week 1, to be fair, but this is still a winnable game for the 49ers. This is why you bring in a Mac Jones to be your backup quarterback, right? The question is, can he do enough? Can Kyle Shanahan make things easy for him? Can Christian McCaffrey, let's be honest, carry enough of the load? And then I think, quite frankly, it's going to come down to Robert Saleh. The Niners defense was excellent in week 1. They only allowed 230 total yards to the Seahawks. They're going to need that kind of performance against New Orleans in week 2 if the Niners are going to get a win. Don't ask your offense to score 25, 30 points. Have your defense buckle down. Maybe the Niners can get by 17, 20 points maybe, and hopefully that'll be enough for a win. And I know you're going to laugh when I say this, but the fact that the 49ers replaced their kicker, I think, could make a big difference in this game. You couldn't rely on Jake Moody. He had no idea where the football was going every time he kicked it. Now you bring in Eddie Piñeiro. He doesn't have to be amazing, but he's not going to miss a 27-yarder like Jake Moody did in week 1. And when you're playing with your backup quarterback and when you're on the road, could come down to field goals, and you certainly feel a lot better about Piñeiro, who's the 4th most accurate kicker of all time, than you did about Jake Moody, who, look, just went unclaimed and is a free agent that literally nobody else in the NFL actually wants. So little differences are going to make the difference in this game against the Saints. The kicker could be one, but clearly the 49ers are facing an uphill battle already in week 2.